Hello folks, welcome back. The bike, as you'll see from the thumbnail and the title, we've got problems with it again. So it was all up and running. I'd got another couple of videos I was going to release still on doing the forks and stuff, and I've gone through the footage and the footage wasn't very good, so I'd kind of scrapped that. And today I was going to get up, take it green laning, its first green laning experience on this bike, to see what it's like. And last night I decided to go and meet up with a mate. We were going to go for a ride over to a bikers do that was going on locally, and I rode over to his, no problem, been fueled up, no problem, got over to his. It was quite early, so I thought I'll go for a little ride out, and I parked up in a farmer's gateway for a minute, flicked through my phone, went to set off, and it wouldn't start. The light of the battery's dead, the clock reset to 0. I thought great, sat there for a minute, let it cool down, tried again, no, it wouldn't go. Fortunately I'd parked on a bit of a downhill, so rolled down the hill, bump started it, off we went round to a mate's, rang him, can't make it, all the rest of it, rode back home up this really steep hill, and I thought I'll park there, give it another go just in case. Switched it off, wouldn't start again, same thing. So I bump started it down there, came home, and then thought, right, what can it be? Seems like a flat battery, could it be bad connections, all the rest of it. So to start with, took the seat off, put the battery charger on. The battery charger went crazy, like the battery's flat. So obviously we've got a flat battery now. It had a new battery on it a little while ago. That was the whole reason I started having problems with it, because I took the tank off to change the battery, disturbed all the crap. That's where it all started. So I knew it wasn't the battery, hoped it wasn't the battery. So I got my multimeter out. After the battery had charged for a bit, started it up, put the multimeter on the battery, it's not charging. So, not too bad you might say, but this is now early Sunday morning. I've had to get up early to start this, to get on with this. It's early Sunday morning, Friday coming. I'm supposed to be going with Helmet Head on his Patreon meet-up and his channel member meet-up, and we're supposed to be riding to Wales, meeting all those guys, and I'm really looking forward to that. And the bike's not working. Great. I mean, I've got 4, 5, maybe 6 days if you can count today to get it sorted. I also work in between. I leave the house at 6 in the morning, don't get in till 6 at night. Long days, so I don't really get much time in the evenings. And when I do get back after work, I'm knackered. But I'm going to have to pull out the stops and get this sorted. So, I think it's the alternator, something's going on with the alternator. I'm going to start digging into it. This is not the video I wanted to do today. I wanted to be out in the countryside doing some off-roading, do a really nice cool video for you guys, but again, we're back in the garage, trying to fix it. But hey, there we go, what can I do about that? But anyway, like I say, I'm going to get on, need to crack on with it, we need to see what's going on. If it's the alternator, which I think it probably is, I've already taken the front cover off, the pulley cover off, seats off, all that sort of thing. If it's the alternator, I need to get one here in time and get it fitted. Also, when I set the tappets, I've watched a couple of different videos now about setting the tappets. I think, well, I know now, I've perhaps not set the tappets correctly, because you're supposed to you're supposed to buy 4 feeler gauges, leave all the feeler gauges in while you're setting the tappets, not go around and do them individually. Because there's a couple of videos out there, if you see people doing it, you'll see that the tappets don't always hold their position when you haven't got the feeler gauges left in there. Anyway, so I need to set the tappets again, which might explain why this is a bit tappy. So I want to do that before we go. And I need to get on. Like, I'm running out of time. I'm massively running out of time. Quite how I'm going to get this done now in time, I don't know. It's probably going to be a mad dash Friday morning before we set off. I mean, we're not due to meet people in Wales until Friday afternoon, but our plan was we were going to get up early, get over to Wales, enjoy the day, and then meet up with everybody. But I think it's probably going to be, maybe if the parts come, it'll be a couple of late nights and I'll have to get up for work early the next day, or maybe a mad dash Friday morning to get everything back together to get gone. But either way, I've got to fix it. Let's get on. I'll stop waffling now. We'll see what we can find out. Right, a little update on the situation. I've got the bike, taken the bike, well, not taken it apart. You can see the tank is off. Now, I tried, let's put it back there a second. Before I took the tank off, the battery's been on charge all night. I've taken the charger off before I started filming. So I thought it will crank up because the battery's charged. But no, it didn't. It was not wanting to go again. So I've taken the tank off, put the battery back on the charger, which you might hear whirring away in the background. And it's taken a whole load of charge again. Put the multimeter on it, it was on like 12.3 volts. Well, I'm now beginning to think, is it a faulty battery? But it still doesn't explain why it wasn't showing this charging yesterday when I had it running. So I don't know now. I don't know what to do. I've got to. So the battery charge is just cut out. So that's been on for about 10 or 15 minutes. 1 second. Right, that's saying it's charged. So what I'm going to do now is take it off charge, stick the multimeter on it, and keep an eye on it and just see what it does. Could be the fact that the alternator is faulty and it's actually draining the battery. I've known of that before on cars, and as this hasn't got a dynamo and a regulator and all the sort of things that you would have on a normal bike. This has got a separate alternator. In fact, let's see if I can show you. Let's get the torch. 1 second. So not that the torch is doing much. In here, this thing here, that is the alternator, like you would have on your car, driven from a belt, which is on to the crank, driven by a belt, just as you would have on a car. So, not the usual sort of setup you'd have on a bike. So I need to investigate now some more. I just don't know what to do now. I'm going to go around, I think, take all the connections up, everything, clean all my connections up. I might even try and get into the alternator there and just see if I can clean the connections up there. Now really I could do with this running to try and do some more tests, but trying to have the petrol tank on here and get it running, I don't know. I'm going to try and work something out. But anyway, do a bit more investigation and we'll cut back in and see where we're at. I mean, really, I could just order another battery, see if that works, but if it don't, then I've got to get an alternator. I haven't got the time to do that. Do I just eBay parts bomb it and get an alternator, get a battery, stick it on and hope for the best? Might end up being what happens, but I don't know. Let's see if we can do some more digging around and see if we can work something out. Right, I've gone through, taken some bits off, got to the alternator, I've cleaned the connections up on the alternator, went to the starter motor, cleaned the connections up on the starter motor, cleaned one of the earths up. There's one that goes to the engine under here, the Allen key head bolt, I can't undo it. The actual connection itself, it doesn't look like it's been off in ages. Is that a problem? I don't know, but I can't get in to undo it. At the minute it would have been a lot of strip downs trying to do that bolt. But anyway, I'm not doing it. But everything else is cleaned up. So what I've done is I've just dropped the battery back in. I've kept an eye on the battery voltage since it came off the charger. Has dropped a little. Not a lot, but it has dropped. We're about 12.7, so I'm not sure about this battery now. Anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn it on. I've still got the throttle bodies off, but I'm just going to, I've connected the battery back up. I'm just going to see if it will wang over. So here we go. just doesn't. See, the clock's set back to 0 again, which to me sounds like it's zapped all the power. What have we got on the battery now? So the battery voltage now, yeah, it's dropped half a volt, 12.2, so that's nearly a flat battery. Is the battery knackered? I could do with a battery pack just to stick on it and wang it over, I don't know. What to do now? See, I've got some of the bike batteries knocking about, but they're not anything off of a, you know, anything this sort of size, so I don't think they're gonna. Right. So that's currently on 13.3, which is not good for a battery, but I don't know if my multimeter reads exactly correct. But yeah, it's dropping really low. That just got to about 5 volts. When cranking, that's not good. So I think I've got a faulty battery. That's not good. Is it just a faulty battery? I don't know. Some more investigation, let's find out. Right. I went inside, had a cup of tea and a bit of toast and was thinking about what's the best way of testing this. So, I'm pretty happy. We decided the battery is, for whatever reason, is not seeing its life out. That's a new battery, so we need a replacement. So I wanted to test the alternator as well. Without the engine running, how am I going to do that? Do I just go and buy one or whatever? Anyway, I've thought of a way of testing it. So, because the belt needs to come off anyway, because the belt is well overdue replacing. We took it off, it's split. Obviously, I don't want to be running that anymore, so I thought, right, let's get the belt off. And then, why don't I see if I can spin the alternator over, see what voltage we get out of it. So, let's show you what I've done. So, we've got, whoa, stop. Future me here. I was about to tell you the wrong way then of checking my alternator. What I've done here is I have actually got it off and I'm now doing a proper test, which I'll show you. So, alternator, dash light, not an indicator, that is a dash light. So I've got a switch in the way there, voltmeter, battery, okay. This goes directly to the battery, so when this is charging it's going to go straight to the battery. This is the wire that goes to your dash light, so when the engine's running and your dash light goes out, that's what's happening, okay. So when we spin the drill now, you will see the dash light go out and the multimeter will go up. Ready? And see that? Voltage has gone up. Now the alternator just spun over there because it's now under load and it's working as it should be. Okay? You can see multimeter's gone up. Slow the drill down. That drops back down. The voltage dropped back down. Dash light comes back on. Okay? Once more. So that is the correct way of checking an alternator, and my alternator is working properly. So I'll let you go back now. To me, then I think battery needs changing. Has something happened to the alternator and taken the battery out? Has it cooked the battery or something? I don't know. Strange that that's a new battery. Shame that it's funny that that's dropped out as well. Anyway, we're going to take the alternator out now. I've found somebody on eBay that's got one. I'm going to stick a second-hand one on it. I can't spend nearly 300 quid on a brand new one at the minute. The one that's on there looks nice and clean. There's no furring up of the casing or anything, so I think I'm going to go with that. And they've said they're going to send it out first class. I've already messaged them. So we're going to go with that. New belt, new battery. That should get this up and running again. So you'll probably have seen, or you won't have seen, crash bars are off. So what I'm going to do today, get the alternator off, ready for the new one turning up. I'm going to take the rocker covers off, take the spark plugs out, get ready to do the tappets. So today it's just going to be stripped, ready for parts turning up. So I'm going to do that now. Next time I cut in with you guys, hopefully we'll be when some parts are here and we're doing something else to it. Obviously I don't want to make this a massive video of it going wrong. I want to try and keep it as short and condensed as I can. But it's Sunday, going Friday morning, I'm going away. I've got a new alternator to fit, tappets to do. Oh, I'm going to check the cam chain tensioner while I'm here. New belt to go on, new battery to go on, set the tappets, put everything back together, all before going away on Friday. Why does this always happen? Anyway, we'll get it sorted. Cinderella will be going to the ball, and cut back in with you guys when we've got some. Right, it's now Thursday, the day before due to go away. So this time tomorrow, really, the bike needs to be ready. And since last looked, it doesn't look that much better. So what's happened in the few days since? Well, done a proper alternator test, which you will have seen, because I edited out the one where I did it wrong, and the alternator is actually working correctly. So I've done a bit of, obviously I've done a bit of investigation in the evenings, a little bit here and there. So tell you what, first of all we'll show you what has turned up. So new belt, which was from, let's get that out, from Motorworks. If you've got an old BMW or any BMW motorbike and you haven't heard of these guys, go and look them up because they're really good. If they haven't got it, you don't need it. Some proper feeler gauges to do the tappets, adjust the tappets. I'll go through that in a minute. New battery and a starter motor. Yeah, now starter motor. I didn't mention that before, did I? I'll tell you what's not here is the alternator that I ordered. Might be here today. I'm a bit annoyed because I asked the seller, will they send that first class, because I really need it, and it's the only thing that's not turned up yet. It might turn up today, but they've not got long because I need to get this one back on. Anyway, so let's start with the feeler gauges. If you're doing tappets on one of these, you have to have all 4 feeler gauges, and you need to put them all in as you're doing it. Because I went round and did them all individually and the bike sounded like shit. If you do them with these, stick each one in, make sure you leave it in and adjust them all just so it grips them. That's the best way of doing it. I found out the hard way, because when you tighten one up, if you leave that in and then you go to tighten the one up next to it, you'll see that one becomes all loose again. So you do have to adjust them all at the same time. So I'm hoping that might quieten the engine down a little bit. Obviously, new alternator belt. You'll see I've done the proper alternator test. I tried testing it in the bike, and you can't test an alternator unless it's got 12 volts over it or some voltage over it. It won't generate power unless it's got power to the alternator. So like I say, I've tested that. This alternator is working as it should. So that then led me to think, why am I not getting power from the bike? So I checked I was then checking for continuity. Let me just show you. So this is the positive battery lead, which goes to the alternator. So I was checking for continuity between those two, an electrical test. So if you don't know what a continuity test is, that's just making sure that those two cables are joined up. So you can put a meter across there to tell you that they're joined up. Let's tip you down a little bit. And it wasn't really working correctly. I'd have to wiggle this side around. So I think I've got bad connection onto the alternator. So I'm going to cut that off, redo that connection. So after I tested the alternator, I was thinking, right, so the battery's charging. That battery is definitely not right. I keep putting it on the battery charger. It's not holding a charge, so I put it on the battery charger. It's charged, take it off, go and put it back on again. It charges back up again. The new battery's arrived. Put that on the battery charger. It won't take a charge. It's showing up as fully charged all the time. So that battery, there's definitely something wrong with that battery. So after I tested the alternator, I thought, well, what's going on with the bike? I definitely want to make sure everything's all right. So I put the battery in it, and I quickly just spun it over, just to make. I just thought, right, it's going to spin over. It's going to be fine now. It still didn't spin over right. So this still doesn't seem right. This doesn't. So I quickly whipped the starter motor out. Now, when I was originally looking at the bike, I looked at this on the outside and I thought, that looks fairly new. I don't need to worry about the starter motor. It's about the cleanest thing that was on the engine of the bike. But see if you can see that. That is knackered. This here isn't sitting in. This is supposed to push out when you power it up. Hopefully you can see that. When you power the starter motor up, that spins out and engages and turns the engine over. Well, you look down there, hopefully that's not even lining up, and that's all wobbly. Just compare it to this one, where as you can see, that's sitting in the end of there. There's no movement in it. So this was Monday night, I very quickly had to go on to eBay again and find the one that said it had the quickest postage, which was this one. Now, unfortunately, this was the cheapest one on there, and see, I want this bike to last, but I've ended up buying the cheapest one I could find. So we'll see how it goes. It's got to last this weekend. I do want this bike. I do want to improve this bike because I want to do some miles on this. I've got some plans for this and what we're going to do. So whether that stays on or not, I don't know, but we're going to see how it goes. I'm sure it's going to sort this weekend out. So I've already set the tappets. Like I say, I did do that. I have done that quickly one evening. And you do need, like I've already said, you definitely have to do it that way. So the tappets are set. So today we've got to redo the alternator connection, get the alternator back on, new starter motor back in, build all this back up, battery in, and get it ready. Which in reality today should be easily doable. But you know how things go wrong, and it's famous last words and everything. So that being said, it's now, I think it's about 7:30, 7:45 in the morning. So I've got all day, but I have got to go off and get this a new crimp for this. I haven't got the right size to go on that cable, so I've got to go and get that, and we're going to crack on. So fingers crossed we can get there, but famous last words, I'm not going to jinx it. Be nice if the alternator I paid for turns up, because I will put that on instead of this. But anyway, I'm going to get on with it. Right, okay, you see the starter motor's been fitted. I also changed one of the connectors onto the starter motor, just some of the corrosion on it and everything. I was just thought, right, while I'm here, I'm going to change that. So getting ready to put the alternator on. I've been hanging about waiting for the postman just in case the new one turns up, the new second-hand one, because I really want to fit that bin as I bought it. Still not here. You know what's going to happen, as soon as I fit the new one it's going to turn up, but anyway, it is what it is. At this point, I've got to get it done. So I've gone around, just cleaned up some of the faces of the alternator where it's going to go back into the bike, just to make sure I'm getting a good earth. Cleaned the faces on that. I've also, the connection onto the alternator, I've changed that, and I'm now getting, let's just switch the multimeter on. So I'm now getting a good, I don't know if quite, let's just see if we can hold you under there, see if you can see everything. But when I now connect that to that, continuity straight away. So now I've got a good connection onto the alternator, or will have when I get the alternator. Let's just put you back there. So will have when I get the alternator back in. So alternator back in now, then the new belt on, then all the other bits on. You've seen you might have seen I've taken the throttle bodies off. Now really it's a lot easier to do that. I need to get the accelerator cables out to be able to lift. I have to disconnect the accelerator cables so I can lift this bracket out to get in there. So it's just, that's the reason why I've done it that way. Oop. Thank God this bike hasn't got ABS, because if it had ABS, that would all be in there. I'd have to disconnect all the ABS and all that malarkey to try and get in there. So it's made it a lot easier, the fact that this hasn't got ABS. So anyway, let's get the alternator back in. Alternator back in, battery back in, all the other stuff built up, and then we can give it a go, see where we're at. Right. Right, alternator is back in. I've actually just put the battery back on as well. Alternator's on, the belt's on as you saw. Ooh. The belt, strangely enough, when you adjust it, you have to adjust it and torque it up to 8 Newton meters to get the correct tension on it, which wasn't too bad anyway, a bit of a faff, but did it. So I could now see if the bike's going to turn over better than it did before, and as tempting as it is, I'm not. I'm going to live dangerously here. I'm going to continue. We're going to put everything back on, and then we're going to try turning it over. I'm very tempted just to see, make sure it works, but if it don't, there's not a lot I can do about it now anyway, because I'm running out of time. So let's just go for it. I'm going to continue putting it back together. We'll get the tank on, we'll get the throttle bodies on, we'll get the tank on, I'll lift it up, make sure we're charging if it starts. Let's continue on. So the bike's all back together. Let's have a quick look. The tank's kind of on. I've not bolted it down because I want to get to the battery. Throttle bodies are all back on. Everything's all bolted back on. So let's see. Fuel pump's going. Let's just give her a couple of goes. Right. Is it going to start? Straight up. Now, big question is it charging? It's flipping it. Ooh. Oh, she's charging. Wow. Ooh. What a relief. Well, time's cracked on. I'm going to get things buttoned up, see if it get a chance to give her a clean, get everything back on, and get ready for tomorrow. I've not got long left now. Oh. Right, well, thanks for watching. Hopefully we'll get her out on the adventure tomorrow. So in the next episode we'll be going on the Helmet Head Patreon meet, where we're going to go meet Helmet Head's patrons and channel members and stuff. So fingers crossed the bike don't break down again. But thanks for watching. If you watched to here and you're not subscribed, please give us a subscribe. It makes all the difference, and I'd really appreciate it. It'd go down well. And drop us a comment, tell us what you think to the reliability of this bike. Thanks guys, see you in the next one, the Helmet Head adventure. We'll see you then. Cheers, bye bye.
Living life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better